Hey yo, how's it going everyone? Entropy here today with another video. Today we're going to be doing part 3 of my tournament run. I know there's like 3 different videos at this point. It's a long run, so I hope you all don't mind. I hope you stick around, see the fights. This time around we're going to get 2 matches in, so hopefully the video won't be too long for you all, but I promise you it's going to be exciting. And the challenge for today is comment down below the biggest misplay I made in this video. So let me know what one move you would change. Whether that would change the results, all of this we wouldn't know for sure, but I definitely made a lot of mistakes here. So comment down below again, and I will pick up my favorite one, and I'll give that comment a shout out, and I'll kind of analyze that move as well, and see where we can go from there. So remember to put the timestamp because that would make things a lot easier. And I guess without further ado, let's begin with the first match of today against Unholy Knight. Unholy Knight actually had a really nice conversation with him. He told me that he started this game, Vanguard 0, with set 9. So the last set of the Asia Circuit story. And I found it really inspiring. He didn't really have any experience with Vanguard as a TCG, didn't really know the clans or anything or the story at all. But still, with his own previous experience with other games and with the community, he was able to navigate his way through and still perform really well. So in addition, he's also going to be bringing Murakumo and Genesis. Both are really peculiar picks when most of the opponents I'm facing against are bringing Kagero and Aquaforce. So yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what's in store for Unholy Knight. And I guess without further ado, let's go with the first game. So I guess let's begin with the fight. For this fight, I'm going to be bringing Aquaforce for my first deck, and Unholy Knight is going to be bringing Murakumo. Now, personally, I think this is going to be a really close match. Aquaforce and Murakumo is both about these aggressive, really early game multi-attacking plays. Of course, Aquaforce is more leaned towards multi-attacks, while Murakumo is more leaned towards building big units. So the pro for Aquaforce is that you can have 4th attacks or more. The pro for Murakumo is you can expand your board, build up big columns so you can even mitigate your opponent's damage triggers. Here we're just going to ride the 6k. Probably just prefer not to ride the penguin. We can use that for later. 6 plus 4, 10k hits 7k, so you probably need to put the Eric behind the Vanguard if you want to hit and not commit another booster. So that's just how it is. Our opponent did miss a right chain, but got the grade 2. And of course that means that they get 2 free Kagebunshin copies of the grade 2, and they can act as boost. So that's, building the big columns as we described previously. Here, just gonna have a full board full of these 9k Magetsus, and you're just gonna quickly deal 3 damage to me. And at this point I'm sweating. I'm like, oh lord, what am I gonna do? I don't have a single PG. How am I gonna defend myself? We only have 2 grade 2s as well, so here we're just going to ride the 9 plus 3, going to use the Basil, and we're going to just go aggressively. We're going to go, I'm like, fully committed. I'm like, we're behind on damage. Let's just hope we hit a heal trigger or something and catch up through that. Going to protect the Basil since that's the only grade 2 I have actually. And I'd rather just take face damage so I can then pull off some heals. Maybe. The more triggers you check, the higher likely you are hitting a heal, right? So that's the idea, I guess. It's not the best idea, but what can you say? So here our opponent's using the Magetsu card, basically making a copy of the grade 2, so they can expand the board without investing in it. So that's great. And in addition, when Murakumo is ahead in damage, you can also it's definitely less risky to do so exactly here. So I think it's pretty good play. It hits numbers well. 11 plus 5, 16. 9 plus 6, 15. They both hit magic numbers against the 9k Vanguard. So they pushed me to 5. I didn't see any damage triggers, so that's really unfortunate, but that's just how it is sometimes. And here I'm like, it's make or break. If I get a PG, so what? If I get a heal trigger, so what? My opponent can still deal massive damage to me. So let's just go for broke. We're at 5 damage. We can use Glory. Just go for it, right? So here you can see the Mercenary Brave Shooter being really valuable here. Being able to hit 10k by itself means that it can actually get rid of the rear guard. And here we're just gonna go face. We're missing that one extra k, so we need that trigger. And whoa, we got it. And if our opponent has a PG or a grade 3 or both, then they'd survive. But luckily they didn't, and we got that W. So let's jump into game 2. So of course, with the Murakumo defeated, we have one last clan to beat now, one last deck, and that will be the Genesis deck. Personally, I think that Genesis is much more consistent than its set 9 variant. With the Fortuna support, your soul charging is much more consistent. You know, you're not going to be soul charging random triggers anymore, and you have, you know, just better Vanguards, grade 3 Vanguards as well. You know, Fortuna lets you keep drive checking, adding cards to your hand, and a lot of great shenanigans, I'd say, with a lot better core cards in the deck. So here we got lucky. We just dealt 1 damage. That's a Sentinel. Always great to see for us. Opponent's playing the grade 2 Artemis, which I found pretty interesting, but I can see why. It's a free on-hit soul charge 2. It doesn't cost Counterblast. Personally, I do value the on-hit Counterblast 1 soul charge 3 more. Names off the top of my head. But that card just, you know, works Vanguard Rearguard, while this card only works Vanguard. And it's still decent though, since soul charging 2 for free is still good, even without the ride chain. Here we're just going to ride the 10k. We're building a 14k column here so we can get our columns properly matched against our opponent's 9k units. Opponent did show the crit and another crit, so I'm getting scared. We're at 3 damage already. How can we catch up in this scenario? The good thing is, against 9 crit decks, generally speaking, they're going to run out of card advantage fast. So if we can just stall out the game and draw into our PGs and grade 2s, then it's good to go. Here, our opponent is grade stuck, so that's good news, I suppose. The good news is that our opponent's not getting Twin Drive. The bad news is, what it means is that the grade 3s in the deck is probably going to be higher, right? Here, our opponent's going to hit with the Counterblast 2, draw 1 instead of the Vanguard first. And that means that they're prioritizing the draw. Whether that's the right move, I personally agree with it, because they are great stuck after all. They do want to get those Twin Drives up and running. And the soul charge isn't that important, even because you don't need to use it as a cost yet, right? So, and generally speaking, with a Fortuna deck, you're just going to want 3 soul, because your Witches of Oranges and Grapes can then help you soul charge. Your starter can help you soul charge again too. So you're generally fine with as long as you have 3 soul moving into your grade 3 turn. Here we check a heal, we check a draw, which is great. We get an additional draw with Maelstrom. I'm considering what to retire. Should I retire the starter or the 7k? And here I'm thinking like, okay, our opponent's lacking in cards in hand. Our opponent doesn't really need that soul as much anymore, since they do get that 3 to pull stuff off. Of course, I didn't expect the Iwanaga Hime. Iwanaga Hime is a card from the original Genesis launch. Soul Blast 6, retire all of your opponent's front row. And of course, you can also soul charge 3 during your main phase to get +5, and then also keep proccing your Witches skills. One thing about the Witches to note is that the triggers you soul charge, even though they do go back to the deck, what it does is it reveals information about what your trigger lineup is. So if for example you're showing through your crits and your draws and your heals, then your opponent would know, roughly speaking, what your trigger lineup is and what cards you have, what grade 3s you have in your deck. So even though it's great, it's already really good. That's something to note as a Genesis player, or when you're playing against a Genesis player, you can roughly guess, you know, what your opponent's grade 3 lineup is, and then what to expect. Here, they're just gonna attack into the rear guard, gonna soul charge, attack Vanguard to Vanguard, and then use the starter, filter the deck of non-triggers. So every trigger check after this, it's more likely to just hit a trigger, and that's pretty good. Nowhere we're gonna ride into Diamantes, right? So what are we gonna do? Here I'm being greedy. I'm like, you know, let's just go for game. Opponent's probably gonna have a bunch of crits in their deck anyways. What I forgot to say was, you know, if in my head I'm like, you know, they're likely to hit triggers because they filtered through it, then why did I not expect them to hit defensives? So I guess there's that. We're just gonna whiff because we want the 4th attack with Maelstrom. Hopefully draw into a PG that we just wasted right here. Totally blunder that. got rid of a PG, I guess, and got rid of 7k booster. But at this point, our opponent has 7 souls, so they're just going to wipe our front row and then go 3 attacks to face. Here, even though maybe that 1 PG wouldn't be helpful, but I guess that 1 PG would be better than nothing, right? So definitely the case where being impatient and not being careful enough, it does hurt a lot. Here, our opponent knows that we don't have any grade 2s, so going for the filter and increasing the likelihood of just hitting crits and hitting numbers is just, the right way to go. Here, just hitting crits, there's nothing much to worry about. And that's basically gonna be game. So I think at this point of the tournament, I'm like noticing that my performance is gradually deteriorating. And if you've seen the end of last video, you will notice that I'm making a lot of misplays starting from there. And even here, every single match I've been making consistently. The one thing I'm consistent at throughout this video is just misplays and misplays and misplays. Either moves that could have maybe saved us that game, or maybe won us that game, not being aggressive enough. Definitely. So I really want to, I guess, use this as a reflective moment for myself, and also a learning moment for people who like to watch games, I guess, to kind of pick up what did I do wrong as well. I think it's a great experience to dissect other people's games, and helps you kind of analyze your own games afterwards as well, if you were able to be critical. Here our opponent's riding the Witch of Grapes, and personally I think both are really great ride targets, Chamomile or Witch of Grapes. Through my personal playing with a fun deck, I like riding the Witch of Grapes more because you're guaranteed that card in the soul. It helps you soul charge even more, and that definitely helps you fuel it. While Chamomile, you can always randomly soul charge into it with the Witch of Grapes or Witch of Oranges or the starter, and that extra grade 2, I think it's just more valuable to just play it out as an intercept for that turn. Here we're going to use a starter. We're going to get that old PG because we know our opponent's playing 9 crit at this point. Just Suisse into the 9k and then Bellicosity on flipping that 1 damage. So going to be managing that counterblast really consciously. Opponent rides the break ride, Himiko, considering pushing the Witch of Oranges front and back. So even though they didn't really do anything here, what it tells me is that our opponent doesn't really have any offensive units in their hand. So maybe the 2 cards is PGs, or maybe a grade 3. More likely it's PGs. And being able to be aware of these kind of little movements from our opponent, because even though like if a computer saw this, they wouldn't expect anything, right? They just left it in the back row. But as a person, you can kind of interpret these moves and see where it brings us. Here we just dealt 2 damage with the Dragonic Overlord. That's the only grade 3 target we have, and luckily we dealt 2 PGs out of our opponent's deck, so that's great. Everything's going fine. Opponent going into the Fortuna early, so that way they can get their engine starting, get the Witch of Grapes to start filtering through their deck and soul charging more. Melissa helps them replenish the board, and we saw last turn that they didn't really call anything in the same column as the Witch of Oranges, and we can see why, because they just don't want to commit whatever's in their hand, and they'd rather just Soul Blast and call it the Melissa. So that's something to know. Just going to use a starter, Soul Charge the Chamomile and the Melissa. Nothing really much here. We got pretty lucky with the heal trigger. And here I'm like, it's not really worth rewriting DDD, and man, so I just call it out. And I'm considering like, should we give them Limit Break 4, because the Limit Break 4 does let them add more cards into hand. So I'm kind of more leaning towards just grinding through the game. Just gonna intend for the rearguard Dauntless to hit the rearguard and burn through those units, because our opponent doesn't really seem to want to commit onto the board from their hand. But yeah, not calling the strike in because we're still low on damage. If our opponent does have 3 attacks, then they'd have to pick and choose, and they're probably going to attack into the DDD anyways, so it's just better to save that strike in for another turn. Here they're just going to Soul Blast to use the Chamomile, and they only have 2 cards in their soul left, so they're 1 off the magic number of 3 in soul to actually proc Fortuna next turn during Limit Break. So at this point I'm like, okay, I'm ready to commit. I'm ready to just go face and then give them the limit break. I'm not really scared of that anymore. Even if they are able to accumulate that 1 extra soul, they're only going to be able to pull it off once. And yeah, here we luckily hit the trigger, so the 19k column couldn't hit. And sorry for that. It was just a little technical difficulty. Here, I'm just gonna go for the cross rate number. When you're going for multi-attack plays with Genesis, when you're soul blasting the Shaman Miles, it's a 9+3, so it's a 12k unit. And with the break ride as a 13k, it means that you're going to mitigate that multi-attack option. Here, I don't think it makes a big difference, but having the end on the Vanguard just feels more, just feels like a better option than Draconic Overlord, since if I want a rearguard Overlord to swing 3 times, I always have the Overlord copy in my hand. And if I ever draw into the end, I can always use the Persona Blast later on to generate more card advantage. Here, calling out the Witch of Oranges, so yes, they're at 4 damage, but they are unable to use the Limit Break because they don't have the 3 soul. And that's one of the problems with, I feel like, Genesis. So for me, for that 1 tech slot in the grade 1 slot, you're going to play your 4 PGs, you're going to play your Witches of Oranges, you're going to play your Melissas, the Witch of Frogs. But personally, I do still like the on-play Soul Charge 1, because sometimes you're just missing that 1 soul and it's all you need, and it hurts when you're at 2 soul and you can't do anything. So here we're just going to use the Berserk Dragon, retire, we're just going to go face because face is the place. Hit the draw trigger, and I'd rather push for consistency. I'd rather guarantee that I pull out that 1 PG from our opponent's hand. Remember that they showed 2 PGs already through the damage, so the likelihood of them having 2 in their hand is quite low. So I just rather guarantee that I get that 1 off if they do have it, and I don't mind grinding out rear guards as well. So it works out overall. Here they showed that 1 grade 3, so the last card in hand is probably a PG. If I was Unholy Knight, I'd recommend you just call out the 6k to the rear guard, hit 13k number to the Vanguard, and then hit 18k to the Vanguard, and hope I don't have a trigger or any Sentinels. Of course, Unholy Knight would know that we had the Conroe search for PG, so it's not really, you know, accurate for the scenario, but generally speaking, if you're going to go down anyways, you might as well go down fighting. Just going to discard the blockade, hopefully draw into something. We did draw into the end though, so what it means is it does let us do the Persona Blast and draw 2, so that's great. We're gonna hit, opponent luckily hits the heal trigger. We're just gonna go the end Persona Blast into draw 2. I do check my trigger lineup and I don't see any triggers left, so rather than with a 20k attack to our 21k Vanguard, I just hit rearguard and just grind through the materials. We still have 1 PG, so hopefully that's enough. One thing to note is that this is one of the reasons why I also agree with the 8k grade 1 as a unit that you want to play in your grade 1 slot, because definitely you're going to hit 13k numbers with the end, you're going to hit 14k numbers with Dauntless, and having that 8k booster helps you hit 21 or 22k numbers. Definitely really important in some cases, and as you can see just now, that would have been game. So definitely, I think that with Kagero, you have a lot of flexible spaces, and in this case, we just got lucky, and that's a game. The next round, we are going to be playing against Just Andrew Zero. Just Andrew Zero said that he's going to be bringing Kagero and Aquaforce. And before our fight, I actually went back to the stream and go through all the players' fights. But generally speaking, if you are going to be making it till near the end, you're bound to have been, you know, you're likely to have been in a previous fight and the live stream, right? Because you're just in more matches. That's just how it works. So I scrolled back and I saw the Kagero deck that Just Andrew is actually bringing is going to be Seal Dragon. So knowing that can actually definitely help me when I position which decks I play or position my rearguard. So if you're going to be playing against Seal Dragons, I'd advise you, don't just brainlessly put a rearguard behind your Vanguard, because they can replace it, put a grade 2 behind your Vanguard, and generally speaking, that's just going to be a wasted unit, and definitely be careful for that. So I guess without further ado, let's just go straight into the match and talk about it. Here, similar to our previous match against the Kagero Aquaforce Mirror, I personally do find myself having more success with Kagero versus Aquaforce instead of Aquaforce versus Kagero. So I'm going to be Kagero first, try to just take those W's, and luckily our opponent did bring the Aquaforce, showing the Eric, showing the self-damager. Both of them are still part of both decks, both Transcore and both Maelstrom. So still can't decipher which is which yet, so gotta still play cautiously. Here I'm considering which one to ride. I'm just gonna ride the Kersey because, well, if you can use the Gojo anytime you want, while Kersey you can only use once, and that's just, you know, I explained about this in the deck profile, so go check that out if you want to. Shows the 9+3, second, 2 if there's 2 or more unit rested, 9+3. And this card's more commonly seen in the Transcore Glory build, so I'm leaning more towards anticipating that. And the reason why it's not common in Maelstrom is because you're generally going to do multi-attacks up to 4 attacks, right? So if that's the case, you might as well play the 4th attack, 9+3. And assuming that it is Transcore, I did tech the new PG, especially since we have the DDD on our hand, so we might go for a break ride. Here we have multiple grade 3s, and since we do know that it is against Transglory, maybe it's just smarter to just keep them. So not really ditching anything with Gojo yet, and just gonna wait for later. Here our opponent's being a bit greedy, calling out 2 Basils. If you do want to attack like that with that pattern, you don't actually need to call anything behind the Basil. You can still get the power up, and then you won't switch positions if anyone's interested in that interaction. That's just how it works. So here against Kagero, especially when you have cards like Berserk Dragon that gets rid of any grade 2 or below, you're just asking to be punished, and that's exactly how it is. Unless our opponent's baiting us, which is some like big brain moves, I guess. So here, we're just going to hit with numbers. I'm not going to call it the Gojo yet, since we might want to discard a draw with it later on. And pushing for damage, it's not that much of a priority here. It's okay leaving them at 3 as well, especially since they only have like 3 cards in hand. Drawing 1 is still 4. They're still not going to make best use of it anyway. So they're going to use the Eric and see what they're going to search. They search the Glory, so yeah, it is going to be Transglory. They're also going to be playing the 9+3, 4th attack, 3rd attack or more, so that's interesting, just having 12k attackers, and I guess that's just great, you know, when you're facing against another player, since they do seem to be playing both Basil and Diamante, so 4th attack or like multi-attack moves are still prevalent. Here we're not going to be break riding yet. There's no much reason to, since we're not going to win a game here yet. Considering calling out the Berserk Dragon, just retire, yeah. And then we just go face. Calling out the 7k, so we hit 21k numbers. Nope, not yet. Okay, gonna save that for later. Hit the heal trigger, this is great. Guarantees that our rearguard column on flipper Bellicosity hits. Opponent hits a draw trigger, so refueling their hand. That's pretty big, honestly, that's pretty big. And hits another draw trigger, so now they're up to 5 cards, and then their draw went to 6. So it makes their break ride turn much more lethal than we expected. But it's still okay, we still have a PG, we still have 2 grade 3s, so we can still make things happen. And as long as we withstand this turn, I'm sure we can still make plays happen. Penguin, Soul Blast 2, draw 1, fills up the board, great card. Diamantes, 12k attacker, hits 15 just to hit a rearguard, I suppose. Don't hit a trigger, that's unfortunate. And then we're just going to wait for the awaited Transglory attack. So what are they going to discard? Hopefully it's not a grade 3 so we can break ride for game. Unfortunately it is. We also have to give up the other grade 3 for the PG. So that's a real shame. We did keep both the grade 3s in our hand, trying to not call out stuff to avoid the discard, but I guess it just happens. If we top deck a grade 3 here, we can multi-attack, but unfortunately we don't. Even if we do, we don't have the resources to just discard 3, right? So here I'm just desperately going to search for another grade 2 or anything. Just going to call up my board and hope that this is game. If not, then it's game for us. It's game for us because we don't have any defensive measures left and don't really know what to do from here. So unfortunately here our opponent does have the PG, so I guess the only thing we can do right now at this point is pray for a heal. Or pray for a draw trigger into a sentinel. That's also possible, I guess. Any 5th damage triggers is very welcome. But what will happen here? Oh, we got that PG in the damage zone. Would have rather had it in our hand, but here, I guess that is game. Something that I want to mention that I really didn't get the chance to mention during the commentary was that I really like that rewrite play, going from Glory Maelstrom into Transcore, because going into Transcore gives it the 11+3 skill, plus 7k booster hits 21. So even if we hit a trigger, that transcore would have passed. So I just thought that was a really small move, but it's actually really, really big in terms of the end game. So yeah, sometimes it's actually good to rewrite into a break ride unit, and that 3k can actually come into really, really handy situations and help you finish off games when you didn't even expect it. Alright, so let's get into the next fight. Since our Kagero is down, we're stuck with Aquaforce left. So let's see how we will fare. Is it going to be Maelstrom or is it going to be Transglory that will come on top? Here, unfortunately, we do start with that heal trigger in our hand, but that's okay. Threatening for early lethal is always nice with Transglory not really building the best card advantage, you know, in comparison to the Maelstrom build. We do draw into the Maelstrom though, so that's not a big worry. Ride the Mercenary Brave Shooter, just hitting those 11 key numbers. Gonna save up my resources. Maybe I should have played more aggressively here since we do have another Mercenary Brave Shooter, but playing slower definitely doesn't hurt. And then better using those fourth attacks with Maelstrom, Diamantes, and Basil definitely can be viable too. Here our opponent's the 8k Vanguard. What are we going to ride? We're going to follow suit, and we're going to ride the 8k as well. Here, honestly, should have rolled the 10k, and then called the 8k to the rear guard. There, that was honestly a misplay. Like here, why not call it the 7k booster? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I guess we got lucky with the trigger. So I guess there's that. We're pushing for 1 to 3, and yeah, lots of misplays to dissect here. So lots of material for you guys to comment and let me know. Opponent rides the Transcore, has the Basil and the 9+3 ready to go. 9+3 is great. Lets you hit those 10k walls. So there's that. The other rear guard, I don't really know why it's just Andrew's calling it out. But I guess just used as an intercept, I suppose. Doesn't really expect to hit numbers since we are 8+5/+5 anyway. So we're going to be 18, opponent 17. So nothing much there. We do have the Maelstrom. Just going to ride the Maelstrom. We have the Basil or Diamantes. I'm going to call out the Self-Damager. Self-Damager here. And then just call out the Maelstrom just to hit numbers. Or Mercenary Brave Shooter as well. That works too. That works too. 7+3 works too. Probably saving the grade 3s just in case we do need to block the Transglory. Because of what happened last game. Definitely affects me too. Here we have the fourth attack. We hit the heal trigger, so that's the second heal trigger in the game. We hit the draw trigger, that's great. And we're able to snipe something as well. So we're going to snipe the Basil, obviously. Nothing much to say here. Return the trigger, so now we're up 2 to 4. So looking pretty good. Opponent break ride, we're still not at lethal yet. Opponent does break ride Transcore into Transcore, which is also good. If you're having a bunch of redundant grade 3s, you might as well just force your opponent to discard one card. Because that card might come into play later, so better now than never. Better now than sitting in your hand, definitely. Discarding our grade 2, so it definitely hurts our defensive turn next turn. And double heal trigger, so we're back 2 to 2, and now we're behind 3 to 2. Very exciting. Here I'm considering if I should break ride. Cross ride, because the 13k number does help against those Basils and Diamantes, and that's what I opt to. We haven't seen that many Basils or Diamantes out of our opponent's play yet, so definitely could be helpful. The 13k base. Considering what I should call out, and if I should even attack in the first place, because I'm just really afraid of the Transcore play. Here we're just gonna check. We hit the heal trigger, and here I'm even considering if I should even give our opponents the fourth attack. So the 4th damage, but I guess the trigger did help me out here. If we attack with the rear guard first, we could have theoretically dealt that 4th damage, but I guess not. Just another mistake there. Reducing our options is never good. So they show a PG go to the bottom of the deck. That's something to note. We're back 3 to 3, so very, very tight game. What are we gonna do here? I'm considering calling out the Self-Damager, put us to 4, and just go for lethal, and hope for the best. What am I gonna do though? What am I gonna do? No reason to use the Eric here at all because we have all the grade 3s that we need already. We're already on a Maelstrom, so why are we gonna use it? But we can still call on top of it and build better numbers though, right? So here we're just gonna go Vanguard into Rearguard. Just gonna play it safe. We're not ready for the break ride yet, so that's just the case here. Opponent seems to be holding onto the resources as well, so that could be just bluffing, or I'm just really afraid of that break ride turn. And here they're just gonna show another PG go to the bottom of the deck, so I'm more comfortable pushing now and seeing where we go from there. Draw into the Diamantes, checking my trigger lineup, checking my PG lineup, seeing where I'm going. Don't see any grade 2s left or near in our hand at all, so maybe it's time to push. Maybe it's time to push. We saw that the Eric is pretty useless right here. We're just gonna go push and try to go for game. And here we see a Basil, 10 to 9, and here we're like, you know, it's now or never. So let's just go Glory and see if our opponent has that one extra PG and a grade 3. And if they do, then I guess we have to just hope and pray for that heal trigger. So here we deal that fifth damage. Probably another misplay here, because if we didn't deal that 5th damage, the Glory would have required a Stealth Amateur to proc. They did top deck that Glory though, so that's something to note. Do we know what else is in their hand? I'm kind of interested to review this myself. But as you can see here, no intercepts, no PGs. The situation seems really, really dire. I don't think we have any heals left, so that's just going to be game. Nothing much to be said, and that's basically about it. That's game. And yeah, I mean, played really well. Heal trigger just for the BM. There's no reason for that to play any role, but yeah, that's basically game. That will be the end of my tournament run. Unfortunately, we couldn't go all the way. I know some of you subscribed here and also participated, so you know, congratulations to everyone that performed well as well. I know some of you got top 8, some of you who didn't do really well. You know, sometimes it just happens, and you know, you just got to learn from your mistakes if there were any, and just you know, hope for better luck next time. I'm sure I hope everyone enjoyed the coverage so far. I hope the fights were entertaining. I hope the commentary did help when you're considering how to analyze game or thinking through plays. Definitely for myself, this was very, very useful as well, because it let me think through my plays and see if I would have done this like a few days later or 1 week later, depending on when I recorded the commentaries. And it definitely does help when I'm playing right now as well, because I'm like, you know, I made this mistake, or like when I'm considering this or that, maybe I should preserve my grade 3s or this and that. So overall, Entropy Vanguard, we did perform 3rd, so yay for 3rd place. Just Andrew did clutch it and got 1st place, so congratulations to Just Andrew. Congratulations to Kokorin as well for getting 2nd. Kokorin is also another content creator, so do check them out if you have the chance to. I believe they were playing OTT and Spike Brothers, so if you're interested in their POV, go check it out. And Joshua tied for 3rd place with myself as well. So overall, in terms of the match rating, we got around a 75%, 80% win rate, so that's pretty cool. Performing wise though, everyone seems to be getting 2 zeros. I'm the only one who's like limping through every single round with 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. So overall, it was really stressful for me, but it was really fun. It was a really fun experience overall. Just wrapping this up, thank you so much to KORAGG, thank you so much to Ghostblade for hosting this event. It's really nice to see this little different meta game basically evolve out of having some of the clans or some of these sub-archetypes restricted. So without Eradicators, without Royals, without Golds, we can see what is going on with the game, right? Or what people expect to be good, or what people are going to enjoy playing. I do appreciate everyone's support throughout this journey. I didn't expect people to actually watch these kind of series, because it's a really, really long video, really long videos. So that's just how it is. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all stay tuned for more. And let me know down below which one misplay you would have played differently. And of course, again, as is in the introduction, I will give a shout out to my favorite answer, and we're gonna talk about it. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button. If you haven't subscribed already and you want to see more, go subscribe. And that's basically it for this video. So that's that, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.